Hey guys, how the hell are you? Today we are going to do an all-new unbiased gear review on this, the Eart NK-C3. But first, some specs on this instrument. So, taking a look at the brand's website, we have a carbonized mahogany body with a tiger peach heart veneer. We have a carbonized bolt-on maple neck with a maple fingerboard and 22 stainless steel frets. Hum single single, 2-point non-locking trem, master volume, master tone, and a 5-way blade switch. So first, the small disclaimer / in before, because I can already tell that a few of you keyboard warriors are stretching. You guys are getting limber so that you can launch into the comments section about how, well dude, what'd you expect? It's a cheap guitar. It's made in China, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I expect from any instrument, regardless of price point, regardless of where it came from. I expect it to be an instrument that is perfectly playable, something that is at least somewhat inspiring to a musician who is picking it up, and I don't know, just something that is a good value for the money. And this is being said, good, bad, or indifferent as far as what the following review entails. So please bear that in mind as you continue to watch. So this is a guitar that a few of you guys have been requesting to appear on the channel, or at least something by this brand. Eart Guitars is a company that apparently has kind of come up out of nowhere a little bit. They're all over Amazon, and there's been a bunch of YouTubers posting videos about them. But a while back, you guys started commenting, started sending me messages, hey, you should really check this company out. We'd love to know your take on it. So fair enough. I ended up purchasing one. That's right. This is not a review model that was sent to me. This is something I myself bought so that I could get kind of a nice, fair, and balanced review out of this, just to be on the side of caution here. But yeah, this is the instrument that showed up. Unboxed it. I was kind of immediately impressed by how the thing looks. I really love the tiger peach heart veneer that's on here. There again, I don't know what that is. I tried Googling it and I can't find shit. But it looks a lot like flame maple, which is really, really cool. Even better than that, if you take a really good look at this top, it looks like a one-piece flame maple, which is awesome because one-piece flame maple is really hard to find. So the fact that they were able to pull that off with this kind of veneer is really cool. The purple burst finish looks awesome. I love the roasted maple neck and fingerboard. I think it looks really, really nice. I am kind of indifferent on the pickguard because you guys can't really see it here so much. I'm going to have to post a picture here, but this pickguard looked like it was white in literally every photo I saw of this guitar, and it's not. This and the cavity cover on the back are not white. They're more of a mint green than anything, and I think it looks kind of interesting compared to the purple burst finish. I think that there's a few people that might get thrown by that. A few people might be like, well, hey, the photos say that it's white, but it's actually green. What the fuck? But just so you guys are aware, so that you don't purchase this instrument and then all of a sudden get something different than what you were expecting. So it is more of a mint green finish. I don't necessarily think it looks bad, but I don't exactly think it looks awesome either. I'm just kind of indifferent about it. The tuners on this seem to be rather solid. They are branded as being Technology USA, Seal 2018 from Corporte, Colorado. Tried Googling that as well, and I'm not really having any luck finding anything about that. But on the brand's website itself, it says that they're actually made in South Korea. So take that for what it's worth. The tuners, though, they seem to be rather solid. This thing is kind of encumbered a little bit with tuning stability issues, and it's something though that tweaking a few things here or there has kind of alleviated most of those concerns, and now I can at least get some good takes out of this thing to the point where I would even say that I would consider, if I was playing live, I could probably take this thing on stage and at least go a song or two without having to retune. So take that for what it's worth. Your experience may vary. Not the greatest, definitely not the worst I've ever seen. Let's get into the fretwork, shall we? Because this is another thing that is really, really awesome about this instrument. So taking a look at the fret ends, we are seeing something that we never see on a sub $300 guitar. And that is the fact that these fret ends are rolled really, really nicely. They are rounded off like a ball end, which is something you typically see on something vastly more expensive. Take my Framuses, for example. That is the kind of fret ends that you see on those. And that is kind of really, really nice to see that, okay, here we are, it's 2021, we've got companies that still can't get their shit together as far as proper fret dressing, as far as eliminating fret sprout from brand new instruments. There's definitely a few companies out there who I've called out about this in the past that, hey, your stuff is mass produced, you're a very famous brand. Why is it that when I go to a NAMM show and I get convention ready instruments off the wall, even those have fret sprout? To me, that's not really something that's acceptable. And here we have a sub $300 instrument from a brand that is made in China, and they have somehow figured out how to make this happen. So yeah, I think that's a challenge that's being issued to a lot of the bigger manufacturers, if you ask me. As comfortable as the fret ends are and the fretboard edge, which is also nicely rolled off, I gotta call out something very, very negative, and that is how level the frets are. All over this thing, there's just a lot of kind of buzzing and dead spots here or there. Even here, like you get to something like the 14th fret right here. And you can definitely tell there's a bit of buzz. 16th fret, also a bit of buzz, but meanwhile in between the two, no buzz whatsoever. So it's definitely an inconsistent fret leveling process. It's not something necessarily having to do with the nut slotting, although that definitely has come across my mind as being something that could be potentially causing it, especially with that open fret buzz that we're talking about. But bottom line is just, especially around in this area, it's just super inconsistent. Speaking of these frets, Doing the friction test, which I learned from an interview with Eddie Van Halen, these are definitely not stainless steel frets. I don't care what that website description says. It says a little bit further down on the website that it is an antioxidant material. Fair enough. Maybe it won't oxidize so fast. Maybe it is decently polished, but this is definitely not stainless steel. Flat out. Otherwise, it would have a much different feel to it than what I've got here. The alpha pots are something that, honestly, you've picked up a lot of guitars that have probably used these pots. They do feel a little bit stiff when you first get this guitar out of the box, but after a little bit prolonged use, nice and smooth. The switch is also of a nice caliber too. I've been banging back and forth with it and not had any issues whatsoever, no shorting or anything like that. The switch, it has a little bit of bounce to it when you plug in your cable, so I wonder if maybe the prong that's in there is just a little bit too far into the center, because it does definitely tend to push the cable back. That being said, it is still nice and secure in the jack, so there's definitely that going for it. The tremolo system could be a little bit better, but at the same time, it's not exactly... full disclaimer, non-locking trem bridges are not exactly my forte. They're not something that I play very often. So for all I know, this thing might be behaving exactly like how it's supposed to. If you dive bomb on it or flat out abuse it, you do tend to get a lot of tuning issues from that. It doesn't exactly snap right back into tune like it really ought to, but it is what it is. It's a non-locking trem bridge, so I don't know what else I was expecting, to be fair. Finally, something else that's a nice touch, if you take a look at the back of the guitar, first of all, I already know what a few people are saying. Dude, it's got a square bolt-on neck heel. Fuck that thing. But you know what? This has honestly been the industry standard for... honestly, decade upon decade upon decade upon decade. So, honestly, you should be used to it by now. But what I will say, though, is really, really awesome is the fact that there is this nice back bevel here underneath the neck joint, which does tend to make it a little bit more comfortable when you're playing lead lines. It's something I wish a lot more other manufacturers would implement, because, honestly, on most guitars that I find that have it, I really, really enjoy it. And yeah, that is definitely something that is very nice, that lends this to a lot more comfortable of an instrument as far as playing leads go. The neck profile is one of those ones where you've played them all, kind of a Strat C-shaped neck. It's not super thick like a 50s style Strat neck. It's a little bit thinner, more like a 60s style. Nice and comfortable with just the right amount of curvature, not really any shoulders to speak of whatsoever. It just kind of starts curving right away and goes all the way over to the other side. Where I do take a little bit of exception to is with regards to this finish. I am one of those players that I like gloss finishes when they're highly buffed out, when they're nice and smooth and fast. There again, like the Framuses that I have up here, like the Aristides that I have that is super buffed out on that gloss neck. This, however, has more of that sort of rough gym floor feel to it. And to be perfectly frank, with this style body, I would have much preferred just having a normal poly satin finish to the neck itself. I kind of feel like that is probably even more so than like the tuning issues and the fret leveling. This is kind of the biggest bummer to me because it makes me not want to play it. It's one of those things where I just kind of feel like, you know, I don't really feel the same sort of inspiration that I do from a lot of other instruments, even from other cheaper instruments that I played, because of how that neck feels. It feels like a nitro neck that has not been nicely broken in and buffed out. So if that makes any sense to you guys. It's one of those things that could definitely have been done substantially better, in my opinion. So how does the thing sound? Honestly, not bad. this bridge pickup is kind of interesting to me because it's okay. Look, it's not the worst sounding bridge pickup I've ever heard in a cheapy instrument, but at the same time, it's also not the best. It's got some decent enough tone, it's got some meat in there, it's got some crispness, but it's actually, you know what? As soon as I said that, I was like, no, it doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't. That is probably the shortcoming of these pickups, is that crisp they are not. They could definitely stand to be a lot more articulate. There's almost like sort of a background, like kind of fizz to these pickups that kind of permeates every little note, every chord, every line that I play with them. Does the tone still kind of work for a sub $300 instrument? Yeah, it does. And it's definitely inspiring enough. I definitely like the neck pickup more than the bridge pickup. I think that the neck pickup has that sort of vintage Strat style clank that I really love. And another great thing too, it also cleans up really nicely. Not bad at all, honestly, all things considered. Middle pickup kind of more of the same. Hot tune already. So overall, my final thought on this guitar is that I really like how it looks. I think for sub $300, you get something that definitely has that sort of aesthetic of like the Suhr traditional body shape that they've got, where it's very, very Strat-esque, but it's a little bit more flat across the top. It definitely has That's sort of influence to the headstock shape, which is kind of cool. I feel like there's a handful of playability issues, but it's not something that is like completely damning like I've seen on some other instruments. But at the same time, I feel like there's enough here that make me want to put this instrument down, that makes it kind of not my favorite in this price point. It's definitely one of those instruments that I would recommend for a couple of applications. Number one, if you needed something more budget friendly that you could take to like bar shows, that you don't mind throwing a beer at, that you don't mind getting spat upon or whatever, but will still hold its tuning and play well enough that you can get through a couple songs and then retune, get through a couple more songs, etc. This definitely seems like something that will at least do the job for you. Is it as professional as it can be? No, but then again, it's a less than $300 instrument, so you shouldn't have been expecting that in the first place. The other application that I would say this would be great for is kids or first-time musicians that need an intro to like a proper instrument, that need something that is full size, that has some decent enough features, that is inspiring enough, like especially with those pickups, for example. You know, they're, again, like I mentioned earlier, they're not the greatest sounding pickups. They're not as articulate as I would love for them to be, but they're not fridge magnets like you find on some of the super cheap ESP, Jackson, and Ibanez stuff. So they're a little bit better than that as far as the tone goes. Just, man, I wish they would clean up a little bit better. But yeah, no, this is something that, like, if you were to give this to like some 10, 11-year-old, say, hey, guess what? You've got your first guitar, here you go, start learning on it. They'll be so enamored with the fact that they got a guitar, they won't recognize the shortcomings because they haven't played super expensive stuff up until then and have been spoiled like I've been. And it'll be one of those things where once they do upgrade to a much more expensive instrument, like in like the $700, $800, $900 range or even beyond, I think they'll appreciate the upgrades that much more because of the handful of shortcomings this thing has. That said, though, still a lot of bang for the buck to be found on this thing. It's just, in my honest opinion, if it was a choice between this or similarly priced Jacksons, Ibanez's, ESPs, hell, Harley Bentons, I think I would go with those instead. I just feel like this is lacking enough that for just barely below $300, you can definitely do a little bit better. So I hear what you guys are saying, but Arnold, what are you drinking today? I am so glad that you asked. Let's go to the beer fridge and let's find out. Today, we are having from Tio Rodrigo, in collaboration with SLO Brewing Company from San Luis Obispo, we are having Taco Works. This is an absolutely delicious Mexican-style lager. Why am I already reviewing it? Because I've actually already had this already once before, and I thought it was awesome. So, Taco Works of San Luis Obispo, brewed with chips. That's right, this is a Mexican-style lager that is brewed with tortilla chips, lime zest, and natural spices. It is a 5% alcohol by volume, so it's a nice session lager. Pours a very, very white golden color with a very, very light colored head to it. So you get more of the lime from, not necessarily from the taste, but from the aroma. It really comes through in the aroma. And it smells great. Man, this is awesome because it's one of those things like when my buddy Dan, who you guys just saw on the At the Gates video, it's one of those things where he was telling me about it and I was like, come on, dude, you know, how okay, that sounds like it might be kind of good, but no, it's more than kind of good. This is goddamn tasty. This is something that seriously, like, I would love to just kind of sit out on back of my patio, just drinking this for like a long Sunday afternoon. This is that kind of beer. It's really delicious. Yeah, Mexican style lager, so it's not quite as malty as maybe like a Hell's style lager, but really, really delicious all the same. Super crisp. Definitely get a little bit of that sort of corn tortilla chip thing happening. What's really funny is that you do get a little bit of the lime. Like I said, it's not as present in the flavor as it is in the aroma. But when you kind of swish it around in your cheeks back to forth, that's when you tend to really get that hit of lime coming through. It's just really nice. It tastes like a restaurant style tortilla chip, but mixed with a beer, and it is awesome. So thank you guys so very much for tuning into this video. Remember to please like this video, comment down below, and please, for God's sakes, subscribe, because this is something that my analytics on YouTube are showing me less than 10% of you guys that are watching this video at this point have subscribed. Most of you don't subscribe to the channel and or comment, like, etc., whatever, share. Please, please, please do something. Engage a little bit, because if you subscribe to this channel, if you give this video a like, that does help with growing the channel so that I can produce even more metal and guitar-oriented content for you. So with that, one last thing, please guys, remember, take what you do seriously. Do not take yourselves too seriously.